Hey, what's up, everybody? Should we be worried? Should we be panicking? Is the stock market collapsing? Will crypto follow with it? XRP is still holding the range. Look at this major crash. We've already crashed several thousand points. Or for the S&P, it was 1,000 points, but for the Dow, it was several thousand points. We've already fallen, and XRP is holding the range. That's incredible. So Bitcoin as well is holding that 80K area. I mean, come on, go back to COVID over here, right? We had a major capitulation, we had a major dump, and Bitcoin and crypto just got annihilated. But this looks to be a little bit worse as far as that candle. I mean, that's a pretty big candle, and we're not seeing XRP crash through the floor, at least not yet, right? Let's hope that it's not the case. So the big question is, when will this crash end? Well, I have a little bit of an idea here. Now, if you look closely, let's make sure that's on regular. You can see very, very clearly that we are coming very close to backtest this area over here, right? So you can see we came up, we had resistance, we broke above it, and now we're potentially going to back test it. So there it is right there. So that's probably where we're going. So is there any confluence to that? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we do. Look at this. If you go back to C19 over here and you draw a trend line and you go all the way up, would you look at that, guys? Would you look at that? We are coming very closely to an intersection here. So now we have 2 points of data. That is 2 points of confluence that the S&P should bottom right around 4,800. Between 4,500 or 4,600 to 4,800. So between 46 and 4,800, that should be the bottom, at least a local bottom, at least a bounce for the S&P, right? Because if we fall further down, right, that's going to be looked at as capitulation, right? So if we take a line here and we go all the way down just like that, you can see how big that was. Now let's take that. This is the COVID crash right here. Now we're going to go up here and we're going to put that line right there. And OMG, guys, that line puts you exactly right in the crosshairs, right in the point from the horizontal support back here at 48 and the rising trend line from back here from COVID, right? So come down, back up, hit the resistance, come back down, hit the trend, come back up, break the resistance, come back down, back test support, and back test the trend line here. So I think if we get down there, then that means the crash would be as big as COVID-19. And COVID-19 was the whole world stopping. That was uncontrollable. You could not control that. You could not control the virus, right? Even though it was a freaking whole scam, right? But that's another topic. But that crash, you could see how big it was. Now that's about soon to be the same exact size, right? And tariffs are way different than C19. Tariffs are used as a negotiating tactic. They can be taken away. They can be, they can be adjusted. So it's not like it's going to last like that forever. So here's where we get into crypto, the good stuff. If we can hold support right around here, which I believe we will, then we can get a bounce, right? Now, depending on that bounce could lead to more downside. So we're going to have to be cautious of the bounce because we haven't got a bounce yet, right? Back over here, we had several bounces. COVID-19, it was a straight line down. This is also almost a straight line down, but that's good. I would rather have a straight line down and get it over with, rip the Band-Aid off as fast as you can and just get it over with. That's the way I see it. Because we don't want a bear market that just drags and drags and drags and drags and drags and takes forever, right? We want it to just slam down, get it over with, and continue higher. And that's what we saw with C19 here. So is that what we're seeing with the tariffs? See, the thing is this over here was the dot-com bubble. It was a bubble in stocks. So it took a long time to deflate that bubble. The 2009 financial crisis, this was probably one of the scariest ones out of all of them. And I was just graduating high school back in here. So, man, long time ago, but you could see how that played out, right? We had 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, and then we had this flat here for a 4 and then 5. All right. So, versus C19, you didn't have anything. You just had a straight line down. So if this continues further down, that's going to mean capitulation. That's going to mean the bottom is in. All right. The bottom is in once we get full capitulation here. So, if we break this trend line though, and we come back down over here, back down here, and a straight line down, that to me, obviously, again, is capitulation. So, that's how markets end. That's how the ends of the moves happen. You can see that in Bitcoin back over here. This was capitulation right here. I remember that day very clearly. So we were coming in here, and then we had capitulation. That's what it was, right? We had capitulation here. So capitulation is the end of the move. If you look at the most bearish candles or the most bullish candles in the world are big fat red ones. Did you know that? I bet you didn't know that. Look, I'll tell you, I can prove it to you. Look at this big fat red candle. One of the biggest red candles in Bitcoin's history. These right here. Well, what happened after that? We went on to make the biggest bull run here. We went from, $3,700 all the way up to $70,000 because of that move. All right. So there you go. That was full capitulation. So the fact that Bitcoin is holding here despite the S&P free falling, that is very odd to me. That's why I'm not really buying this whole stock market crash freaking thing. Because a real stock market crash, this is a real stock market crash, but a real narrative stock market crash, like a stock market crash, the way I see it, is everyone losing their jobs, unemployment is at 50%, inflation is skyrocketing, there's homeless people everywhere, businesses are shut down, and the stock market's crashing. That is a legitimate stock market crash. But the stock market crash we see today is perpetuated. It's not organic. It's perpetuated by fear from the tariffs, from the narrative they're trying to shove down your throat. And everybody's bearish. Even the guys that, some of the guys I love and respect they're geniuses, they're smart, they're falling for this trap. And it's like, man, you don't see the writing because they don't really understand the whole Trump plan and the tariffs and what they're really used for. They're just listening to the fake news and they're not really, they can't tell the difference, and it's kind of sad, but we can. So again, go outside. Are people driving their cars? Are people going to work? Are people having lunch? Is there pandemonium? No, everything's normal, right? We just had job numbers come out and they were good. We blew job numbers out of the water. And unemployment actually came down, guys. It came down. So what the hell? Why is the stock market crashing? Because the freaking tariff narrative, fear that they're trying to say, look at the Trump. Basically, the stock market wiped out $5 trillion. And you know why? Because they want to blame it on Trump, right? For the tariffs. And that is true. We are seeing the move down in response to the fear of, it's not the tariff itself, it's the fear associated with the tariff, right? The uncertainty that revolves around the tariff, because the tariffs aren't even in effect yet. I mean, they are in effect, but it just happened, right? It's not like there's any, you're going to need at least 3 months to see the effects of the tariffs. Okay. So the stock market coming down is pricing in before that actually happens. That's why that's why charts are confusing. That's why things are, because when the tariffs get announced, right, you see a big crash. But after that, what's the reason for it to continue to crash? Is Trump going to increase the tariff? Are we going to have more? We already tariffed every single country there is. So how much more damage could there be? Everybody already knows about it. It's not like this is new. This is old, right? So now the market is trying to price in what's next, right? So if the market believes that tariffs are going to be negotiated and other countries are going to drop their tariffs and we're going to drop our tariffs, then the market could rebound very significantly, especially when we have strong job numbers and things like that, right? When we look at XRP is still holding the range. And this is another reason why I'm not too concerned. Not yet. I mean, if XRP fell below the range, then I could say, you know what? Maybe there is some juice behind this stock market crash, because if this was think about it, if this was a real stock market crash associated with 50% unemployment, recession, homeless people, jobs disappearing, businesses, all the businesses in your neighborhood are shut down. They're all closed for business. Everybody lost their house. This is 2009. Everybody lost their house. Okay, if we saw that, then we can say, yeah, now we can see why the stock market is crashing. But there is none of that. Everybody has their house. Everybody can go to the grocery store. There's toilet paper. There's milk. There's food on the shelves. There's businesses open. So there's nothing to freak out about. Again, if we saw mass pandemonium and we saw that's why I think XRP and Bitcoin didn't just completely collapse on itself, because crypto wasn't completely buying it. And not only that, but crypto has been falling this whole time, right? Look at crypto. We've been falling since the beginning of the year, beginning of last year, right? We've been going down and down and down and down and down and down. So ICP has been going down for the last year. Let's look at THETA. Same thing with THETA, right? We've been going down since back over here, since kind of the beginning of the year, right? Or you can say we've been going down over here. So we've been, that's why I don't think, if we look at the stock market kind of side by side here, and we take a look at this, right? You can see THETA has been falling a lot longer than the S&P. You got 1, 2, 3, say 4 or 5 candles in there. So you got about 5 candles. But look at THETA. You got 2 there. You got about 3 there. That's 5. You got 6, 7. And then you got 8, 9. So you got about 9 massive dumps, right? So THETA has already fell pretty significantly. So if this has to drop a little bit more, then maybe we come down and we hit that 5th wave, because the way I'm looking at THETA, and we'll get back to XRP in a minute, but the way I'm looking at THETA is, let me put this back to log scale. There we go. And let's take a rectangle and let's go back to home. This is home. This is where I started my channel, right there. And I always remind people that, because, I always, the THETA, that's why I love THETA, and I love the THETA community, because you guys help support and watch my channel, and so I owe a debt of gratitude, and that's why I always look at Theta, and I believe in Theta very, very much, because you guys have a very strong community. And yeah, I think Theta is going to be a force to be reckoned with very soon. So it doesn't feel like that right now. It feels terrible, but trust me, it's setting up very nicely. Look, we're down. This is the low here, right? We broke out of the low, and now we have this three-way move coming back down. We are so close to back testing this area right at, well, I think that's 67 cents. Okay, so I started the channel at 64 cents. We could be coming back down to 67. All right, we're very close. We're very close. Let's look a little closer. And the reason why is because you can see, I think we're very close to the bottom, right? So if we drop down to 67 cents, that's going to be approximately another 12%. So we could, I think the stock market is going to continue down next week. All right. Because if you look at the weekly candle close, it was pretty solid, but we did have a lot of gaps. So I think those gaps will come and get filled. But I think we're going to have a little bit more downside in the stock market, just letting you know. So if that's the case, then we can see this come down and finish here. And if we get down there and we get a significant bounce off of that 67 cents, then I'm calling the bottom, right? Now, there's a difference between calling the bottom and witnessing a bottoming process, right? Because you see how this was the bottom here, but then we had three waves up, and then we had to come all the way back down, basically almost to the bottom, right? So, if that is the case, and we had three up and then three back down, you could still very easily come back and revisit that bottom. But it's not the bottom, it's the bottoming process, right? Just like how this was the bottom, but we still had to go through the process of the bottom, basically building in that range. So we want to see something similar to that. So I'll just draw a little box right there, and that's kind of what we want to see before that next move up. So that's what I'm thinking here. If you look at every single Facebook post, every single Twitter post, every single YouTube video, what are they all saying? Stock market crash, crypto crash, fear, 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 scared, 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 scared money don't make money. All right. So people are fleeing the markets because they don't like being uncomfortable, right? The market coming down makes people uncomfortable. The reason why is because those people don't have conviction. If you have conviction in the plan and in what you hold, right, then you have nothing to worry about. So, like, for example, THETA is a utility token, and I believe it's going to be very valuable in the future. But during this time of fear, uncertainty, and doubt with the tariffs and the stock market coming down and things like that, it's just making the case even stronger for THETA because, we saw the Dow go down several thousand points. It could have been a lot worse. We could have seen this thing come all the way down to 30 cents. We could have seen the low get taken out. If you look at the big chart of THETA here, right, the low is right down here. So if you want to see a real crash, then this is not that's nothing, right? It could have been so much worse. We could have completely fell through the floor, and maybe we still may, right? Maybe this is just the beginning of the crash. I don't think so. I think we're getting near the end, because when you reach mass panic and mass fear and the market is free falling, right? So if you combined mass panic, capitulation, right? Everybody's fearful. The markets are coming down very heavy. That usually is a signal that the bottom is in, or the bottom is getting very close to being in, right? Now, in order for that trend, what if you say to me that, well, how do we know that for sure? What if the market continues down? But here's the thing. If the market wanted to continue down, like the stock market for a minute, SPX, if the market wanted to continue down past, like, let's say we get down here, right? We should, it's not going to just keep falling. What's more likely to happen is you get a bounce first. You get some big bounce that comes in here. And then this is where the real crash occurs. The real crash occurs from the retrace level, not from the initial top, right? Unless it's one crash like COVID. This was the peak. It was a straight line down and it was over. That's one type of crash. The other type of crash is how you're oscillating to the downside, right? And you're retracing. So that this first move here wasn't the crash. It had to come back up in a big bounce, and then that was the crash. And then it had another bounce up, and then it had another crash, right? So we need the bounce in order to continue the crash, right? So if we look at the 2009 financial crisis, you can see we kind of were bottlenecking in here. We crashed. That was the first wave, and then we came up in a retrace, and then that was the real crash, all right? So it happens, the real crash happens after the dead cat bounce, right? So you could say, well, that was a little bit of a bounce there. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe that was it, but it's kind of small. I don't think so. You got a three-way move here. It is proportional. So let's see, do we have equal length? So if I draw that from there, and then I take that line and I put it right there, you can see we've already exceeded that first wave. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, there's a lot of support coming up on this trend line here. So actually we're on log scale, that's why. All right, there we go. So there we go. There's the trend line, and it's coming up very close. So anyway, let's take a look at XRP here, and what I'm gonna do is also draw a trend line here and see exactly where we are. Did we break the trend line yet? Let's see. No, we did not. I mean, obviously, right? But what I was gonna say here is, if we take that same S&P 500 logic, right, and let's say the crash was gonna continue and it was gonna eventually bring XRP down, which I don't think. I think we're still going to get another high here. But if we do break down, it's just going to delay the inevitable of another high, right? No matter what happens, no matter what happens, I'm expecting $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, no matter what, right? So if we have to collapse below the range and end up back testing in here, you can see the intersection there. It's not too much of a confluence. Let's see if I put this line right there. There we go. I like that line a little better. That's about 89, 90 cents. That's 90 cents right there. And then if I take another line and I draw that up there we go. Now you can see kind of a crossroads. And that crossroads is right here. So if the stock market is going to continue to crash, XRP has been very strong. It's been holding and holding and holding. I mean, think about it. The stock market crashed pretty significantly, basically more than COVID. We wiped out $5 trillion. Guys, the whole market ain't even worth $5 trillion, right? Not counting Bitcoin, right? I don't even think the whole market. What's the whole market worth? You can see the whole market is only worth $2.6 trillion. Guys, the stock market wiped out $5 trillion. Where did that money go to? So now we have $5 trillion sitting on the sideline. Think about that for just a second. Just think about that for a second. We have $5 trillion out of the market. Where did it go? It didn't just disappear. Where is it? It's in cash, right? It's in cash. That's where it's at. And now we have all of this cash sitting on the sidelines, and we have crypto back testing the previous high here, this could be a setup for another big high, actually, because there's so much money that came out of the stock market. Maybe people, if crypto can get a significant, if stocks continue down, right? Let's say the stock market continues down, but crypto continues to hold. What do you think people are going to do? They're going to take their money out of the stock market and they're going to put it into, obviously they're putting it into gold because gold is moving up, but they could also put it into XRP. They could put it into other cryptos that are holding pretty nicely. So yeah, we wiped out $5 trillion. That's pretty insane. So here's another trend line here, and I'm just going to go above it. You could see that's where we are, right? I went above, but I'm trying to connect this line here. So you could see we're really close to the trend line. And I think once we get there, let's put that at the top of this eye here, right there. And there's another one right there. So there you go. Look at all that's, here's more confluence right in here. So you have a rising trend line, higher highs, higher lows. You're coming down to back test the top of this structure here, and you're meeting, there's 2 points of confluence. So this should be dollar cost averaging territory. Now if we break below it, it could be a fake out. But if we break below it and we come up and we get rejected and then we continue down, that's when we should be like, okay, now the bear market is in full force. You know what I mean? Now it's, and when I say bear market, I mean more so a mid-cycle correction, because we've never been in a bull market to begin with, as far as the whole crypto goes, right? Just Bitcoin was the only one that went into price discovery. So, and then you can even extend this out a little bit too. But I don't really like it a lot because you just totally missed out on this one. Yeah, and that takes away from it. So, let's go look around a little bit here. So, like if you look at something like VeChain, right? This is what I'm saying. Like, everyone wants you to believe that this is just the beginning of a crash. Usually when we have a major crash and everybody knows about it and everybody is living in it, right, because of the narrative, that's usually when it's over, right? Just like when we have big bullish news, like look at this big move here, right? We had a big pump. What was the narrative? Trump, right? Trump won the election. Trump was going to give us regulation. Trump was going to give us the strategic reserve. You know, Trump was going to eliminate the SEC, chokehold on crypto. So everybody was bullish. But guess what? It was over before it even began, guys. So as soon as we got going, as soon as the narrative was in full force, that was the end. That was the end. But if you reverse that, if you flip that upside down and say, okay, now it's the bearish case. We've been going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 5 waves in here, right? Unless this is, this is 3, this is 3, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So we have an ABC. This is actually a 3-wave move to the downside, right? And we're at support down in here. So I'm actually very bullish on VeChain. Actually, I like, you know what? I really like VeChain here, right? Because you can see, look where we're at. We're right on the trend line. Look what it did, right? It's creating this move here, and this is a 3-wave move, right? And you know, it could lead to more bearishness. For example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an A, right? And actually, no, that's not right. It's actually like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an A, and then you have 3 waves up. That's a B, and maybe now we're coming down in 5, right? So, but we would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, but it just doesn't really make a lot of sense unless we get, you know, that's why no matter what, I'm expecting a retrace here. We need some kind of retracement, You know, if this is just going to fall through the floor, then that means the wave's done, right? That means this is an A, B, C, and it's complete. So if we get full on crash, full on capitulation, it's over, right? So either way we look at it, the end is near. Now I wish this was a diagonal. That would have been nice. Or if this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have a 1, 2, and then you have another 1, and then another 2. That would be really nice to see. But yeah, we've been look, we're dumping, we're back at support. We're back on the trend line. So crypto has become exhausted. The selling pressure is exhausted to the downside. Now, if you look at something like ADA, it's actually even more bullish. So if you look at VeChain came all the way down to here, right? That's why I don't think ADA is going to go down there, because VeChain is already down there. And if ADA had to go down there, then VeChain would have to go to the next level down, right? Which is all very possible. Again, next week, I think the stock market is probably going to come down a little bit. It's going to be very volatile next week. And we could see lower prices, but I don't think... I just feel like it's getting really close to being over with. So, that's just my... I could be wrong. Maybe this is just the beginning of a big crash. But I just don't really think so right now. Right? I have the right to change my mind and if I see something, but I don't see anything. Right? I see a low, I see a high. I see a higher low, I see a higher high. I see a higher low. We haven't not taken this low out. If we take this low out, you know, maybe it's not going to be so good for a while. But that's why if you look at the dollar is even back at support, right? You had this 3-wave move in the dollar, and it looks like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down. So if we get a 3-wave pullback, then we could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another 5 down. And that would be kind of like 3 down, 3 up, and then 3 back down. Boom, you know, boom, boom, boom. A bigger 3-wave move. So just be on the lookout for that. I don't know why silver is crashing, though. I really would like to see it not. Where's gold at? Is gold around here? There's gold. See, gold isn't crashing. Gold is holding up nice. That's the 3-day candle. And then the silver. Man, silver is just... I don't know, man. Silver needs to stop being so heavily manipulated, I think. Yeah. But I don't want precious metals to go up. I want crypto to go up, right? Look at Bitcoin Cash here. Interesting. Very, very... Look at Bitcoin... Guys, you see what I see? Do you see that? Check this out. Bitcoin Cash, you had your impulse. Okay? That's your wave 1. And then you had an A, and then you came up in a B, and then you came down in a C. That's a 3-wave pullback. That's your wave 2. And it appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a wave 3. Right? It maybe we're in that wave 5, because if you look over here, right, we had 1, 2, 3 waves up, and then we crashed. But we don't have 3 waves up anymore. What do we have, ladies and gentlemen? To me, it looks like we have... I don't really like this 3-wave move, though. I wish it was 5, but it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a 5-wave move to the upside. And then this looks like an ABC. It looks like we're getting an ABC. So maybe we have a little bit more to go, right? Maybe we have a little bit more to go. You know, this could be 1, 2, 3, and then this is 4, and now this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get 5. Right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A. We have 1, 2, 3. B. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down for C. So we're very close, but they want you to believe that this is just the beginning. I don't think it is. I think this is the end. So at least for a bounce. Now, when I say the end, I don't mean the end of complete bearishness. I mean the end for that wave, that particular wave that we're referencing. Same thing with Ethereum. I think Ethereum is just, yeah, I just wish it was more oversold. You know, Ethereum's kind of just dragging down. See, we don't, you know, this could lead into capitulation, right? Like this right here was capitulation, and that marked the low. So you can see here, what is needed for capitulation in markets? Market capitulation, the point where investors surrender and sell assets, right? Basically, it's, you know, a pretty much full collapse, right? So you can go ahead and read all that. But essentially, I think that's what we're seeing in stock. So XRP is at $3.30. It's not at $2. It's not even at support. Right? $2 is support. We're not at $2. We're at $2.13. So we're off of the support line. Right? So what I'm not sure, like when you look at it from the 2-day perspective, I don't see 5 waves. I see 1, 2, 3. Is this going to be 4? And are we going to get 5? That's kind of, you know, maybe, right? And we can get 5 without even taking the low. So, but if we zoom in, I can see 5 now, right? I could see 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5. So, which one is it? You know, that's the thing. I'm gonna go with this one here for now, because you can kind of see we're kind of creating this reverse triangle here. So if we have to come back down, you know, we'll see how that plays. But let's take a little bit closer of a look. So do we have, oh, I like that. I think I like that. Maybe I don't like that. So you have 1, and then you have 2, and then it looks like you have 3, and then you have 4, and then is that 5? I mean, that could be a 5-wave move. That's what we want. If that's a 5-wave move, then that's really good. That's what we want to see. So like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what we would want then is for the market to nicely oscillate to the downside, maybe backtest this area at 206, and then gear it up for that next move higher. There you go. That's XRP, small time frames. Probably a little bit of downside in here. Let's get a 3-way pullback. Let's hold support at 206, and let's go and rip above 220. That's what I would love to see. You could also, whoa, wait a minute here. You could also say that this potentially could have been Wyckoff right in here. Yeah, let me see that for a minute. So you can see how Wyckoff reacts, right? You can see the different ranges. So basically, you have like a move up, you have a move down, you have a move back up, and then you come down and down and down and down, and you create this spring. And it looks like an M, right? It's an M shape. And this is below support. And then we kind of work your way back up, we play around, and we blast off. That's what basically Wyckoff is. Now, Wyckoff could be a little bit different. Instead of coming down in a spring, it could actually just go sideways here and then continue higher. But if we look closely, do we have Wyckoff? Let's see. We have, you know, a 3-way move up. We have a 3-way move up. We come back down. We come back down. And this secondary test in phase B comes below that area. So that's good. And then we come back up, and then we come back up. And we don't break So this wave here doesn't break above this wave. Same thing here. And then what do we do, guys? This is actually interesting. Look at this. And then we start drizzling down all the way down. Same thing here. We have what appears to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down if you don't count that wick, right? And that actually took the low here, and that was your liquidity grab. So the same thing here. This could have been your spring phase right in here, right? And then it kind of plays up, plays up, plays up, plays up, plays up, right? And now we push our way up back to the top here. So if this is like a flat, like an A, B, C, like that, and we could push higher and kind of play around in here and then take off, that would be quite interesting. Or if we have to kind of flag out a little bit and then push your way up to where this is, you know, and then continue higher. So I like it. Yeah, it looks pretty good for a Wyckoff accumulation pattern. So anyway, there you go. That's a potential Wyckoff pattern there. So I think that's about it for XRP. Let's take a look at the weekly candle, because that's going to end tomorrow. The weekly candle looks good. We got a doji, right, which is good. That's what you want, right? So we're coming down all last week, right? And then this week we had this doji that says, no, I don't want to go down anymore. I'm sorry. No. I don't want to go. You know, XRP saying, no, I don't want to go down, right? That's what that doji is telling me, right? This is the only doji in the entire range. Think about that, right? Except for this one over here, you got a little bit of a doji there, but this one here is a real doji candle. So that's the only doji candle in the entire weekly range, in this entire range, right? And it's happening, right? You don't want dojis on top. You want dojis on bottoms, right? So, yeah, this thing looks like, to me, it's flagging out in here, right? And you got this 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You got this 3-wave move here. And then you got this move up, and then this move down, and then now we're going sideways. So if we can get back up here and kind of, you know, work your way out and bust through that, I mean, it's very, very possible. So, and here's the big thing. Here's the grand finale right here. So remember, in the beginning we were talking about the stock market, right? Okay, so if the stock market is collapsing, what do you and XRP is holding, what do you think is going to happen once the stock market finds support and it starts to rally back to the upside? Because it's going to happen, right? We can see, look at the difference between the S&P 500 and XRP. Insane, right? So if this drops a little bit more, whatever, right, maybe we go a little bit lower. But once we start to reverse and we have some type of retracement, because we always have retracements. Once we get a retracement, that could lead to a big push in XRP. Because imagine how high XRP would be if it wasn't for the stock market collapsing on itself, right? So once again, this is a big move down. Big moves down get big bounces. Big bounces have an effect on the rest of the market. For example, like XRP, if we get a substantial bounce in the S&P, that could be the juice that propels us to the next wave to the upside. So we'll see how that plays. But yeah, that's a big deal, because once we get a big bounce in the stock market, you know, because, you know, you saw THETA dropping, Matic, Ethereum, I mean, all of these coins are dropping, stock market dropping. So, but XRP is holding. Okay, so what happens when this gets a bounce, that gets a bounce, that gets a bounce? You know, THETA gets a bounce, Bitcoin, S&P, Dow gets a bounce. What do you think is going to happen? We're probably going to break above the range. So, by the way, we are in a bull market, kind of, right? Not completely, because we haven't broken above the, but you could see all the moving averages are pointing up, pointing up, pointing up, and this one's kind of curling down a little bit, but they're all angled to the upside for the most part, right? They're all angled up, which means that is called consensio. And consensio is the consensus of, are we bullish or bearish, right? So we are still bullish despite the stock market being bearish. Because remember, look how tight. Remember we were talking about XRP all throughout here, and we were saying how bullish it is. The reason why it was so bullish is because how tight the moving averages were, right? Remember back over here, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we had A. This was your B wave, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down for C. So we had an A, B, C right there. That was a 1 year 3-wave pullback. So from July 23 to July 24, that was a 1 year 3-way pullback. And then we had an impulse, and then we flagged out, and then we broke out, right? So if we look at something like ICP, how long has it been? Well, we are coming up literally on the 1 year mark. So March 25th, 2024 was the top, right? So that is exactly 1 year. Look at that, 371 days. 364 days is the year. Wait, so because it's the weekly chart. So it's actually saying that it's March 31st already, right? Which, it already is, right? Because it's April 5th. For some reason, I thought we were still in March for a minute. Yeah, so it's already been over a year, right? So let's see, that second candle was April 1st. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. So this candle is the March 31st, and this candle was the same, April 1st. So basically the same thing. So basically this coming week will mark the 1 year anniversary of the 3-wave pullback. And not just ICP, but if you look at THETA, the same thing. 1 year pullback, just like what XRP did, right? We had a 3-wave pullback that took 1 year. Same thing with SHIB. 1 year exactly. Okay? So this could be a really interesting milestone, right? From a time perspective, we are super on point. From a narrative perspective, we are also on point because there's so much bearishness in the markets, right? There's so much fear in the markets that, that's what you kind of want, because now we're getting close. So, you have 3 waves up, you get 3 waves down. That takes a whole year, right? And then what did XRP do after that? It created a little bit of a base, but then it went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It went up in 5 waves, and then it flagged out just like this. And then what did it do? It went completely vertical. And that is what I believe could totally happen with crypto. So take a screenshot of it, and let's see. All right. So if we go back to XRP real quick, and we look very closely at this right here, you can see, so this 5-wave move actually got us almost back to the top of that range there, and then we flagged out, right? So if we go to THETA, or actually XRP, you could see the B wave right here, A, and then this was a 3-wave B, and then this first wave actually stalled out kind of at the top of that B wave. So if we go to but THETA is a big B wave. THETA has a massive B wave. Look at the B wave's way the hell up here, almost is rivaling the A wave. So I don't think it's going to go that high, most likely once we bottom here, I think the bottom's going to be around 65, 67 cents or so. Maybe it's already in. I don't know. It could be already in. So, you know, what we want to see here is a 5-wave move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. And then here's the moving averages. They're coming down. You can see them, right? And then that's when we start to stall out in here. But then that's when we get a big, maybe a big push up. So somewhere up here, right? And then hopefully a continuation. So hopefully that first wave gets us really strong, and then we flag out, and then we just completely go crazy. Right? That's the bullish idea. The bearish idea is that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A. And then you have 1, 2, 3, that's B. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's C. And then we go up to the moon. So that's the bearish idea. The bullish idea, we have 3 waves up, we get 3 waves down, and we should get an impulse. This is a 1-year 3-way pullback, just like XRP. We flag out, and then we get back to the retrace levels. And that, what is that? That's 3 up, 3 down, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. That right there is a big A, B, C. That's a 3-wave move to the upside. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, then it becomes a bigger B, a more complex B from there, and then either we can flag out and continue going into price discovery, or what's more likely to happen is for price to come back down to this area and then go into reaccumulation and then break out at another day, right? So it'd be a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways breakout, just like what XRP has done many times. You know, and then I look at coins like XLM, looks a little bearish right here versus XRP. Is XRP bearish? Wait a minute here. Yeah, see, XRP looks good, but XLM looks like a little sad there. Let's take a little closer look. So XLM's down 4%. Yeah, is this A, B, C? And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of a tough one. You got 3 there, you got 3 there, and then you got 3 there. And you got 3 here, and now this could be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, maybe like a diagonal or so. I don't know if that's a diag, but something like that. Let's take a look at Litecoin. Litecoin looks all right. Again, you got a 3-wave pullback. You got 5 waves. But I still think we could go a little lower because you have support down here at like 70 or so. 75. We looked at S&P. We looked at... All right, let's look at... Let's see. There's also NEAR, which is absolutely phenomenal because it has such clear wave structure. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, very, very clear. You have 3 down, you have 3 up, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. I mean, come on, dude. Like, it's perfect. You have confluence here, confluence here. You're right at this kind of support level. Could we go lower? Yeah, I guess we could. A little bit lower. And just same thing with for THETA, right? And that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like a 7-wave ending, a crashing structure, right? and then we continue higher for a retrace. So I think that's coming. What about H bar? So H bar is looking better, I think. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we have 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 down, 3 up, 3 down, right? And this is 3 down, and this is 3 up, and this whole thing is 3 down. So we have an expanded flat. So 3, 3, and then 3, right? So we should be finishing here somewhere around this area should be the end. And then we draw a downward resistance line, and then we can break out and get that retrace. I think that retrace is coming, but I'm not convinced completely. Let's see, because if we look, yeah, it does look kind of nice. You know, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I don't like, or what's probably 1, 2, 3, and that's 4, and that's 5. And then we kind of had this little three-way move up, and then we kind of fell down a little bit. So yeah, it's consolidating. It's trying to find its footing here. Whoa, look at that wick. Not much on Filecoin. You know, you have this move up. You're kind of coming down a little bit. Let's see if the low holds. But what's more important on Filecoin is 3 waves up, 3 waves down. 1 year pullback. This took exactly 1 year to the day, basically to the day. So, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like we should be getting 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So looks good. It's getting closer. Matic looks really steep, like a very steep dump. Has had tons of sell pressure, especially because it's kind of an Ethereum coin, you know. So, but yeah, I still like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 5 down, you got 3 down, you got 3 up, and then you got 5 down. So that's an ABC right there all day long, and that's a flag. We have an impulse, and we're flagging out. So once this is finished, it's most likely going to come back into the retrace. It doesn't seem like that right now because we're dumping so aggressively, but this isn't going to last forever. I mean, look at all those red candles. That's a lot of candles. I mean, you could have made a lot of money shorting this for sure. You can see Link. I haven't looked at the sequential. We had a 9, but it wasn't perfected. We also have a 9 on Algo, and it looks pretty decent. Algorand. You could see there's a trend line down here. So it wouldn't take too much for it to get back down there. And I think that could be potentially where we're going. Algorand doesn't look finished. To me, I think the whole market needs a little bit more downside. You know, let's come back down to support and then see from there. So, Theta Fuel's looking good because it looks, you know, it's right at support. So if it doesn't bounce here, then, you know, if it keeps falling, I'm going to be very skeptical of a trap, because usually the way you know it's not a trap is it falls, it bounces, and then it continues down. But if we fall and just keep falling, or actually we fall and we fall through it, it's probably going to be a trap where you draw a line right here and it's a liquidity grab and then you come back up. Because just like with everything else, you have 3 waves up, you have 3 waves down, and you have 5 waves in the C wave, and this took 1 year. So everything's right there, and you have support. So, you know, it should be getting very, very close to being finished. AVAX, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like you need 1 more wave down, 5. So again, you got an impulse. You have a 1 year. Everything has a 1 year pullback. Everything, right? So we saw what happened with XRP when it had a 1 year 3-wave pullback. So I think it's setting up nicely. But we just have to wait for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin could easily come down and backtest this area. So we could have, again, another wave down, but I think we're getting really close. Same thing with DOT. You have a 1 year 3-wave move. Aave, we don't. Ethereum, we do. Jasmine. Render, we also have a Flow. We also have a 3-wave pullback. And Flow actually took the low here. Flow took the low. Yeah, Flow looks definitely interesting because you're all the way at the bottom here. So this is a new all-time low. And it's funny because people say, oh, we just entered a bear market. No, we've been in a bear market for the last 5 years. You know, so there's that. Well, more like 4 years, 4.5. So Flow looks pretty good. I mean, probably got a little bit more downside. What we need to see is a base. We want to see a base get built, like right there, like right there. You know, that'll give us the signal like, hey, we're done falling. Fetch is another one that has a nice looking 3-way pullback. I'm not convinced that it's completely finished down, but it looks like it is. I mean, you got 1, 2, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you got 1, 2, all of that's 3. This could be 4, and now we're getting 5. So we got a little bit more to go. Total 3, a big, big, big deal. Total 3. So total 3 kind of reminds me of what went on back over here. Let's actually take a bars pattern and look at that side by side. Let's see if we can see anything. So if we take a bars pattern here, and we just do that, and then we go to blue, and then let's put it right there. So you can see from a time perspective, you know, it's not quite there yet. Let's see if I put that peak right there. Actually makes more sense if it's kind of like this. It actually fits nice. Look at that. It actually fits pretty nicely in here. Wow. Guys, look at this. Are you seeing this right now? Look at that. That's almost too good. Okay, so you have your run, you have a 3-wave pullback, you have a 3-wave pullback, you kind of climb up a little bit, you climb up a little bit, you have a big fall, you have a big fall, you have a little bit of a hump, you have a little bit of a hump, big dump, hump, big dump, right? And then you climb up a little bit, pull back. So if we can get this move here, something like that, you know, and we kind of play around in there and then get going, and then we see the big blast off. So you could see just how close we are, guys. So we'll see how it all continues to play out. But that should do it for this part. All right. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Real quick, what's the weekly candle say? It's whatever. It's a doji though. It's a little bit of a doji. You see how we were coming down and then we had this doji and it stopped? Well, look here. Then we went up and then we're coming down, 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 right? And then we had another doji. So that could be a stalling point, right? So I would love to see a double bottom in here or something, some type of finishing move in here that continues on. So, all right, I will remember, not financial advice. I could be wrong. We're just exploring ideas, trying to look at the wave structure, trying to figure out what it's doing. And remember, as far as the tariffs go, don't believe the mainstream media narrative. Don't believe all the fear. Don't even, even your favorite podcaster might be off basis. Even I could be totally off basis. I mean, but at the end of the day, it's like, what do the charts say? Right? The charts tell you more than what the fake news does. So, all right, I will catch you guys on the next one.